Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to the Debrief live on the Blood Red YouTube channel with myself, Patrick Smith, and I'm joined by the Liverpool Echo's Theo Squires, live from Anfield. And for once, we're talking about a Liverpool win, which is a very nice result to be talking about. It's a 2-0 win to round off the Champions League group stages. Liverpool, of course, already progressed before tonight. But Theo, a very important win against arguably one of Europe's best sides at the moment is a very promising thing to see, isn't it?
It is, but you go away from this with a strange feeling because, yes, they've beaten probably the best team in Europe at the moment on form, but it's a game where both sides sort of meandered through it. They didn't need to win. They didn't need to go full 100 miles an hour because both were through already. It would have taken a 4-goal win, I think, for Liverpool to wrestle away top spot from Napoli, and both sides knew realistically that's not going to happen, especially with the form Liverpool have been in this season. It was important for Liverpool to get a win, to get a response from the crowd, just because of how dismal it was against Leeds. We're saying this every week. After a bad result, when they do get a win, it's like hopefully corner turned, but it really does this time need to be a corner turned. It can be a step in the right direction, but it wasn't a Napoli side at the very best. So it's how much can you really judge it on? The same as how much could you judge the Rangers' victories. But on paper, which is all we'll look at it from when we look back later in the season, Liverpool just been one of the best teams in Europe at the moment. They've got a clean sheet. They've got essentially 2 goals for Nunez, 1 goal for Nunez. If it's 1 goal for Nunez, then Salah's the leading goal scorer in the Champions League so far this season, and he's Liverpool's all-time record goal scorer in Europe, along with Steven Gerrard. There's enough positives there to go with a smile on our faces. But yeah, it's a strange feeling when the fans didn't really wake up properly, shall we say, I think, until Napoli had a goal disallowed, and then we had a bit of a lively atmosphere for the final 20-25 minutes. It's a strange one, not quite the Anfield European nights we're used to, but who cares when it's a win?
That's the exact thing, Theo. I think everyone was expecting it to just be a boring, played out 0-0. And it looked like it was going to be exactly that, didn't it, up until probably the hour mark, 70-minute mark, as you said. But then both sides really kicked into it in the last 20, 30 minutes. Now, can they take any pride from this victory, or do you think Napoli seemingly won't care? Like, is there any significance in this result for Liverpool? Is this a corner turn, do you think?
For Liverpool, there is significance. Like, it can be a confidence boost for them. But I don't want to say corner turn because, like I said, we've said that so many times this season. And this is one where you can't really take as much motivation from it as you could for, say, beating Man City 1-0. But Napoli, they won't care. They're top anyway. I think both sides made 4 changes coming into this one. Liverpool realistically are going to have a tougher draw in the round of 16, and you're just hoping when you get to that side of Christmas, that side of the New Year, you've got the likes of Diaz back from injury, you've got the likes of Naby Keita with runs in the team, and they can be more like Liverpool that we know and seen win everything in recent years. But they've got a respectable win today. Like, Napoli never really took control of the game. There's a debatable, offside for the disallowed goal. They had a couple of shots straight to Alisson, but he's not really had to do much else. And on the other side of that, Liverpool had Thiago forced a good save from Mere. Curtis Jones went close a couple of times in the first half. As you said, it was only in that final 25 minutes where the teams picked up. And I think that was in response to the crowd. Like, the crowd, you could see when the VAR was waiting on the Napoli goal, they were just chanting LA, LA, LA throughout. And there was a roar coming throughout it. And then Darwin Nunez comes on, and that lifts them again because we know how much this fan base already loves Darwin Nunez, eagerly chanting his name, waiting for him to come on. You know when he comes on, something is going to happen. Good or bad, something will happen. And thankfully tonight, it was good.
We'll move on to Nunez and Salah shortly, but I want to talk, Theo, about the midfield because it was back to a 3 today and it looked so much more stable. And then off the back of that midfield, I think the defence looked so much more solid. I mean, a clean sheet against a side like Napoli, who are averaging, I believe, 3 or 4 goals a game. I mean, they're top of Serie A unbeaten, hammering that league. Now, granted, there was an offside goal. It's one that went in, but it looked so much more positive for Liverpool defensively. And is that a result of the midfield 3, do you think?
It helped. Like, Fabinho, again, wasn't at his very best. Like, there were times where he was a bit sluggish winning the ball back, or second best to Ndombele and Zambo and Giza. Like, these 2 players who we've seen in the Premier League with Fulham and Tottenham Hotspur and haven't thought much of them. But between the combination, Liverpool weren't second best, shall we say. It was like a pretty even midfield battle there, and Liverpool edged it from the final whistle. It's a blow to see James Milner come off for injury. Like, he was setting the standards a bit early on, but it's not really a player you want to be seeing starting Champions League games week in, week out. Thiago's passing was a bit off as well during moments. It was just like the game sort of accidentally fell into life in the second half. Harvey Elliott added to it as well. I think the Klopp's changes, they really helped for Liverpool just to get that bit more fire in it and bouncing off the crowd. Defensively, though, the big change is Konate being back. He's more imposing than Gomez and more imposing than Matip. He's got the recovery pace as well. His distribution's pretty good. He was great carrying the ball out from the back today, and he enjoyed some pretty physical battle against Osimhen up front. He was certainly making sure the striker was quiet today. And it helped that you also had Trent put in a good defensive display against the Georgian lad, Mr. Control C, Control V. That's the one. But then, like Napoli, they didn't start Zelensky, they didn't start Lozano. There's a few players there you'd expect to see are more offensive for them. It normally start. So it's how much you really take away from that, how much confidence you take away from that. Like if Liverpool, like last year when they beat AC Milan at the San Siro, that was a great result for how many changes they'd made. But if AC Milan had won 2-0, how confident they can say, oh, we've just been a Liverpool side that had like Tyler Morton, Takumi Minamino. It's a similar sort of thing, I'd say.
I mean, Ibrahim Konate is a huge plus for me. I mean, his return is going to be huge, particularly in the new year. I mean, Victor Osimhen's one of the most informed strikers in Europe. The pace, the physicality that Konate had to keep up with him is surely something that's going to be taken note of. But let's move on, Theo. You mentioned Jurgen Klopp's substitutions. Darwin Nunez is going to be the talk of the night. His goals or goal involvement per game ratio is crazy at the moment. I think it's more than one per game. He comes on, nearly gets the goal. It has been given to Mohamed Salah. Whether that changes or not will remain to be seen. And then obviously gets the second one. I mean, he's so important, Theo, and getting him back fit and firing after the World Cup is going to be huge if Liverpool are going to turn the season around, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Like Liverpool fans were desperate to see him come on. Like, there's probably a bit of a surprise that he wasn't starting, but then you can equally turn that on its head and say resting him for Tottenham because that was a bigger game for Liverpool. That's a must-win for them one the weekend if they're to get back into this top four hunt. But Darwin Nunez, it doesn't 100% click. It's a bit raw. It's a bit messy at times, but he still makes things happen. Like we say it every week, he causes chaos, he causes havoc, and it makes goals happen. It results in goals. Like whether it's his goal or not for the first one, who cares? The fact that it's gone in, that's all that matters. He certainly found a weak spot in the goalkeeper, didn't he? Like he looked pretty poor from those headers from corners. Liverpool hadn't really threatened much throughout the game. But when he's such this physical striker, but he's got the pace as well, he's a nightmare for defenders. He was unlucky not to set up another one for Salah where he did the 1-2 when Salah's turns on that man. It was a great clearance there because Salah was just waiting for the tap in to celebrate in front of the cop. But it was brilliant strength from Nunez to shrug off the man and get the ball across in the first place. And I think it's the first time he's going away from a game and you're not thinking, oh, he's had a shocking miss there. He's contributed to a couple of goals and he's unlucky not to contribute to a third. It's a really positive performance from him. And he's becoming so important to this Liverpool side at the moment without Diaz, without Jota. Like we know the attacking options are limited. Firmino was in a rich reign of form in front of goal and those have dried up since he's had to play every week. Carvalho and Elliott are still very raw. Salah's been a bit hot and cold at times, though he's still returning the goals. Nunez is certainly, when he's in that Liverpool starting 11, he's making them a lot more dangerous. And when he's on the bench, he's certainly an impact sub. You can just ask that he comes on and has a big impact. Like against Leeds, it's probably his quietest performance of Liverpool so far. Today, he was much more like it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be so important come Sunday. Let's just touch on that there because you mentioned resting players ahead of Tottenham. Tottenham had a huge game tonight. They came from behind to beat Marseille to progress to the knockouts of the Champions League, which will have taken a lot out of them. Now, do Liverpool need to go to Tottenham and win, do you think? Or would a point be satisfactory in the current situation?
Got to win. Got to win. Like you take a draw, but you've got to win when you look at the gaps already emerging on the top four and the teams above them. They are making up ground. And while we've seen them make it up before, confidence is low at the moment. And, you're going to be disrupted by this World Cup break. I think Spurs have got a couple of injuries. They've seen Song off today with potentially concussion. So that could just be Harry Kane in attack. So you'd like to think that maybe aids their efforts to keep Tottenham quiet, but they have to make it count. Like we've seen, they got the win against Man City, but they've dropped points away at United. They're yet to win on the road in the Premier League yet this season. Lost to Arsenal. These are the sides above them in the table, so they need to pick up points on these sides. Against Leeds, it was a big opportunity for them to sort of bridge the gap because you saw Chelsea lose, but Tottenham came back from 2-0 down against Bournemouth. You've seen Newcastle batter Villa. Like, if these teams aren't going to take points off you, you've got to. It's a bit of a mess in this race for Europe at the moment because teams are a bit hot and cold with results, and it's just the 2-3 at the top that are running away with it. But with that danger, it's going to be a race for that final top four spot. and Liverpool have to take points off the teams in contention. That is Tottenham. They have to win. Points not going to be enough. You'd imagine that second half of the season, after this World Cup break, Liverpool could have players back from injury. They can sign a couple of players in January, and everything's rosy again. But when we're all wounded at the moment, battered and bruised, every point counts.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. For me, have to go there and win. Big statement win. Very much needed, particularly in the league. Well, my last question, Theo, that I'm going to move on to. The Champions League draw for the knockout stage will take place next week, I believe. And it was a pretty dangerous-looking situation at the start of the night. It's not looking as bad now, as Liverpool could potentially draw Porto or Eintracht Frankfurt. We've drawn Porto so many times, it really wouldn't surprise me. Now, who do you want and who do you not want from the draw? There's a few big teams in there, aren't there?
Can they get Frankfurt? I thought Tottenham were top of their group.
I believe Frankfurt are top of their group, yeah.
BBC saying it's Tottenham.
Oh, there we go. Okay, they can't draw Frankfurt, so the only nice option is to leave Porto. So that could be a pretty dangerous situation for Liverpool then, couldn't it?
Well, yeah, I'm just going through groups A to D now, and you're going to need to draw two of them if Tottenham are top, and it's FC Porto, which Liverpool have done before, got the job done. It's a happy away day, or it's Bayern Munich and Sadio Mane. I don't think we really want to see that one anytime soon. Obviously, there's another half of the group to go here. AC Milan could potentially topple Chelsea. Real Madrid or Leipzig, there's only a point between them. Dortmund probably won't topple Man City, so that's another group you can't get someone from. And then it's PSG or Benfica who level on points. So it will get a much clearer idea from this in 24 hours' time. But going through them, it looks like quite a few English teams at the top of the group. It's going to be slim pickings for who Liverpool can actually pick. And if it's going to be a choice of Porto, PSG, or Bayern Munich, only one team we really want there, isn't there? Oh, Real Madrid was the other one, wasn't there? There's only one from those four that you actually want to face.
Well, everyone, make sure you tune into Friday's Blood Red podcast because I'm sure that we're going very much into depth ahead of the Champions League group stage draw. But for now, thank you very much for joining us and watching along, and thank you to Theo Squires for joining me live from Anfield. Make sure, everyone, that you stick around right here on the Blood Red channel to hear Jurgen Klopp's reaction in his press conference because we'll bring you that as soon as we have it. But for myself, Patrick Smith, and from Theo Squires, thank you for joining us and goodbye for now.